opposite side of the world lies the enigmatic land of Mu, a vast and advanced civilization that spanned the Pacific from Hawaii to Japan. The story of Mu is a tale of epic proportions, filled with ancient texts and legends translated by scholars such as Augustus Le Plongeon and James Churchward. But amidst the myths and legends lies a startling truth. Mu was destroyed in a cataclysm over 11,500 years ago. The evidence is scattered across the Pacific, from the underwater ruins of Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan to the massive stone structures of Nan Madol in Micronesia. The ruins of Nan Madol, built with volcanic rock logs, bear witness to a technologically advanced society beyond its time. For example, LiDAR imaging has revealed that the island was once home to a sophisticated irrigation system that provided fresh water to the residents. But perhaps the most intriguing evidence lies on Easter Island, the easternmost part of Mu. The Moai statues, famous for their massive heads, were once believed to be just that. However, recent discoveries have revealed that these statues have entire bodies buried deep underground. So how did they get there? Were they buried by something or someone? And what of the people who once lived on Easter Island? Could they have come from Mu, walking across a landmass that the ocean has since swallowed? The evidence for Mu's existence is compelling, but it is not without controversy. Some argue that the similarities between Polynesian and ancient Greek, Egyptian, and Indian cultures suggest a common origin, while others dismiss such claims as mere coincidence. But amidst the debate lies a more profound question. Could Mu's cataclysmic fate be a warning of what is to come? Dr. Chan Thomas lays out a chilling theory of a cyclical cataclysm that could wipe out humanity. His research suggests that a seismic event could cause the layer beneath the Earth's crust to turn from solid to liquid, causing the land masses to slide freely and throwing the Earth off its axis. The Adam and Eve story may seem simple, but there's much more to it. And if you're daring enough to delve into the entire book, the links are below. But be warned, what you're about to read may make you question everything you thought you knew. So should you panic? Well, let's start by clearing up some misconceptions. Some claim that Dr. Chan Thomas, the author of this explosive book, is a made-up name, but this is far from the truth. Dr. Thomas was a real person, born in Missouri in 1920 and passed away in 1998. He was a family man, an electrical engineer who even worked for McDonnell Douglas, and he appeared as a UFO expert in a documentary. He had many talents and interests, writing books on ESP, UFOs, and even natural childbirth. But despite his accomplishments, he was also known to be highly eccentric. Some may argue that the CIA's release of only 57 pages of the original 284-page book indicates that some pages are missing. However, the original book was only 57 pages, and the missing pages were simply blank, and the original book proves this. So if the CIA document was the entire document, why was the book classified? That's a mystery. The classified documents included the book, an inner office memo, and a snipped article from People magazine. And while the book may have been controversial, it was never banned, like some people suggest, because there were copies in circulation. However, the book's content raises some questions. Dr. Thomas deducts from old texts, borrowing ideas from other catastrophists, like Hapgood and Immanuel Velikovsky, without providing solid evidence for his claims. For instance, his theory that the Earth's magnetism and electricity become disrupted when the ice caps knock the planet off its axis is a stretch because even the originator of the idea, Hapgood, after working with scientists, including Albert Einstein, issued a follow-up book that explains how he got that wrong. But Dr. Thomas sticks with the story, without providing any evidence or even an explanation of how it happens, not even in his revised version of the book in 1993. But despite the lack of concrete evidence, some support some of Dr. Thomas's claims. And while his expanded version of the book in 1993 may not read as scientific, it's still worth exploring for its ideas on ESP, UFOs, and angels. So was Dr. Chan Thomas a serious researcher? That's for you to decide. But one thing is sure, his book has sparked controversy and curiosity. Some claims in his book have sent shockwaves through the scientific community, and with evidence mounting, it's hard to deny that some of them may be possible.
first ancient civilization said to have existed in the Pacific Ocean, is believed to have been highly advanced in terms of technology, spirituality, and knowledge. While the existence of Mu is still a matter of debate, some say there is evidence that suggests that this advanced society may have once thrived in the Pacific and had a profound impact on the surrounding civilizations. The origin of the legend of Mu dates back to the 19th century when Augustus Le Plongeon, a French explorer, made claims that he had discovered the ancient civilization of Mu in Central America. He believed that the civilization was once the center of a global empire that had a profound impact on the world. The idea of Mu quickly gained popularity and was soon adopted by various esoteric and spiritual movements. Le Plongeon believed that the god Ra was central to the civilization of Mu and that the name Mu was derived from the Egyptian god Ra.
Could the massive underwater structure, known as Yonaguni, really be the remnants of an advanced civilization that existed here on Earth more than 10,000 years ago? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and claim that further evidence can be found in Polynesian stories of a long-lost continent called Mu.
This lost continent of Mu was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and it encompassed Hawaii and Tahiti, Tonga and Samoa, and even Easter Island were all part of this lost continent of Mu.
African people are not descendants of Adam, who came 7,000 years ago. African people are descendants of the land of Mu. Millions of years ago in ancient times, there were no continent. The world was one, called the land of Mu, or Pangaea, as the Europeans say. The people were one with God and nature. Then a great cataclysm happened, and the world was shattered into oceans and continents. And the ancient land of Mu you can find at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, under the South Pole and North Pole, and in the Pacific Ocean. The survivors of this great cataclysm are what you call the indigenous people today, in the Pacific Oceans, Australia, Africa, and the Americas.
There are basically zero critics of James Churchward's work. And we have records from 1925 that James Churchward learned more than just hidden history. He also learned, in my opinion, hidden technology from the previous civilization, where James Churchward owned over 100 patents. Now, I want to go even deeper. James was a soldier. He was stationed in India, where he became close friends with an elderly monk from a nearby temple, where these documents were in a secret archive in the temple. The priest or monk taught Churchward the language called Nakal, by which the tablets were written. And we know that according to Churchward's work, these were the people that lived in the continent of Mu. And the part that I find interesting is that the location of where James was stationed, the location of where this temple is located, is wiped out from our database. The fact that we cannot look up where he was based, hiding his location as colonel, proves to me that they want this information gone and hidden. As if the British government doesn't know or has lost the records of where they stationed one of their soldiers. He was stationed in India for decades, and this location of this temple is now hidden from us.
In the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, shrouded in mystery and veiled by the mists of time, lies the story of the mythical land of Mu, a tale that has intrigued scholars, mystics, and adventurers for centuries. This documentary delves deep into the heart of the legend of Mu, embarking on a journey that stretches from the ancient temples of India to the remote islands of the Pacific, unearthing the lore of a lost continent believed to have vanished beneath the waves thousands of years ago. Our story begins with Augustus Le Plongeon, the 19th century archaeologist who first proposed the existence of Mu, drawing connections between the civilizations of the ancient Maya and the mythical lands described in ancient texts. Yet, it was James Churchward who would become the most famous proponent of Mu, captivating the world with his detailed accounts of an advanced civilization that perished in a cataclysmic disaster. According to Churchward, Mu was no mere myth, but a reality, a continent in the Pacific Ocean that was home to a highly advanced and spiritually enlightened civilization. He claimed to have discovered evidence of this lost world in ancient tablets, shown to him by a temple priest in India, written in a long-lost language that only he was able to decipher. These tablets, Churchward asserted, of Mu, the motherland of mankind, where science and religion formed the basis of a sophisticated culture that predated all known ancient civilization. Churchward's Mu was a land of immense beauty, with vast plains, rolling hills, and large cities, boasting a population of 64 million people. He envisioned Mu as stretching from the Marianas to Easter Island and from Hawaii to Mangaya, a civilization that was technologically superior and spiritually profound, ultimately destroyed by volcanic eruptions and earthquakes that caused it to sink into the ocean. The legacy of Mu, according to Churchward, survived through the remnants of its people who spread across the world, influencing the development of ancient Egypt, the Maya civilization, and other cultures, leaving behind a trail of symbols, architecture, and knowledge that hint at a common origin. As we journey through the landscapes of Mu's supposed remnants, from the enigmatic Moai of Easter Island to the ancient ruins of Nan Madol in Micronesia, we encounter a blend of archaeology, mythology, and speculation that challenges our understanding of human history. Despite the lack of concrete evidence and the skepticism of the scientific community, the legend of Mu continues to fascinate, a testament to humanity's enduring quest for knowledge and the allure of the unknown.
Structure, also called the Eye of the Sahara. It's about the right size and shape for Atlantis. Plato described the city as concentric rings with a waterway flowing out. But even among Atlantis believers, there's debate about whether this is a man-made structure or a natural one. But what I find fascinating is near the Eye of the Sahara and all over the planet, you'll see large ripples in the landscape. Now on the ground, these look like rolling hills, but they're actually about 50 feet high, the size of a 5-story building. And they were caused by water. A lot of water.
This is one of the craziest things you'll ever see.
These ripples, repeated ripples in an area where there's nothing else like it.
This is the fingerprints of the flood. That's what it is.
Wow.
The water here, Joe, that did this, the way to visualize this is to, again, begin to think of tsunami. Here, what you have to visualize is a tsunami sweeping over the land that's over 1,000 feet deep. And it's sweeping down over this land at probably 200 or 300 million cubic feet per second, which is an inconceivable amount of water.
But Atlantis isn't the only place lost to this disaster. On the other side of the world, we have another lost continent. This is called the Land of Mu. Mu is described by Augustus Le Plongeon and later by James Churchward, both of whom translated very old texts from the Maya and India. Both of these cultures, on opposite sides of the world, describe a vast continent in the Pacific that reached Hawaii in the north, and as far south as Easter Island, and as far west that it almost reached the islands of Japan. James Bramwell and William Scott Elliott, both proponents of this theory, claim the continent was destroyed in a cataclysm 11,500 years ago. There's that date again. The Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan is said to be the underwater ruins of Mu. Nam Madol in Micronesia is considered to be the southern part of Mu. The site is full of structures made of enormous logs of volcanic rock. Nobody knows who built this or how, but their society was advanced. Just recently, LiDAR imaging from the air shows that at one time, Nam Madol had an artificial irrigation system that could bring fresh water to residents all over the area. The eastern part of Mu is Easter Island, and there could be evidence of a cataclysm there. On Easter Island are the Moai statues, and you've seen these. It's lots of heads, about 1,000 actually. And most people don't realize that these statues have bodies buried deep underground. So there are two options. One, whoever built the statues first dug holes, then buried 30-foot tall, 80-ton statues up to their necks, then filled in the holes. Or two, the statues were completely above ground, but at some point were buried by something. And look at Easter Island. It's a tiny island in the middle of nowhere. At one point, 12,000 people lived there. Where did they come from? Mainstream anthropology says that people from Polynesia took a canoe out thousands of miles in the middle of the Pacific and hoped for the best. But if the continent of Mu was real, then they could have just walked there. This could also explain why Polynesian languages share similarities to Greek, and maybe why on Easter Island they worshipped a sun god called Ra'ah, which is awfully close to the Egyptian sun god Ra. And the connections don't stop there. There are similarities between Greek, Egyptian, and even Indian gods, as if all these cultures intermingled or came from a single source. Chan Thomas lays out some good evidence for the cyclical cataclysm theory. But the big questions are how and when will it happen? Well, you're not going to like the answer.
We all want to know who built these massive cathedrals, right? We all want to know who had the knowledge before we were all born. We want to know Why we're being told that they were built with hammers and chisels. Today, I think we take a step closer to finding out where this incredible knowledge of construction truly came from, where we are all aware of the massive continent that was completely left out of our mainstream textbooks, the land of Mu. So let's go even deeper. When we go back to this article from the Courier Journal from 1925, nearly 100 years ago, where it reads, according to the records from Colonel Churchward and the East Indian High Priest, the records state that some people were brought by flying machines to India from the land of Mu in the Pacific Ocean. The records say that Mu was the motherland of man. In Mu was the Garden of Eden, where they had cities, where they learned to build palaces of marble. They acquired the skill to quarry gigantic blocks of stone and to transport them long distances and to carve them into human faces. Like we saw in episode 60 in Easter Island, where the records say that the people of Mu navigated the air and had ships where they sailed to far distant lands with rich cargo. And now that we know all of this, I want to show a few things. First of all, this is showing that the technology of flight has been here before, where the Wright brothers' story, creating the first plane in the 1800s, would be a massive lie, where they have this information stored and giving it back to us slowly, as we have discussed. Secondly, they mention in the tablets that the land of Mu was in the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean has been named the Pacific Ocean for 13,000 years? Or was the land of Mu here much closer to our timeline? Or is there more land? Not the entire continent, obviously, but are there other lands, possibly bigger than Easter Island and possibly bigger than Hawaii, left over from that cataclysmic event that are still here today and simply hidden from our maps and our flight paths, where our current day planes could simply just be flying around that area? Where these hidden islands could be. Hidden knowledge, where our flight paths are just circling it. The Garden of Eden, the place where humans had cities, where they learned to build palaces of marble, and learning all of the construction skills that we are all asking questions about worldwide today. We are all wondering who built these cathedrals. We all know at this point that the horse and wagon community did not hire Donkeys Incorporated in the 17 and 1800s to chisel away at some stone and marble and knock out the Cologne Cathedral. We know this. We know that they didn't hit the stone with a hammer, a little harder and with a little more precision than we do today. And their work just lasts forever, and ours doesn't. It's not about effort. There's knowledge involved here. And we are just getting started today. Their cathedral, located in England, we are told was constructed by the people of the 1100s. 900 years ago. And of course, the narrative holds a major fire. In the year of 1088, because the narrative knows all about the year 1088, and this is fully documented, of course. No. The interior ceiling of the Gloucester Cathedral is incredible. And I am at the point where I believe that this knowledge to construct this way, architecture that doesn't fit into our mainstream history at all, of primitive people in huts, no power tools, and zero background on their training processes all over the world. This incredible architecture and construction in every single continent may have come from this continent of Mu, where they seem to have had communication with a higher power, where we are told that this is the Garden of Eden, and it shows through the construction. We have the physical evidence that they were able to construct the massive stone heads at Easter Island. And then we have this, Nan Madol, located on an island called Micronesia, a location that is connected to the land of Mu, connected to Hawaii, and connected to Easter Island. Also located in the Pacific Ocean, a once great city of man-made stone islands. The construction of the artificial islets probably started 1,300 years ago. Probably. Maybe. When in reality, in my opinion, it wasn't 1,300 years ago and was much closer to our current timeline, where they go on to say that this was built at the exact same time as the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, where they just eyeballed it, gave it a solid educated guess. The experts really nailed these dates, where the 12th to the 13th century seems like the winner. So it's very clear that these dates are attempts to fit this place right into their timeline of thousands of years. And what is with these maps? Throwing a layer of static right over the top of this location with a perfect 90-degree angle. It's interesting to say the least. Nan Madal has confused the mainstream narrative, and they simply don't understand how to fit this place in, where this location holds construction of megalithic architecture, where the so-called experts cannot explain it, where they say little can be verified about the megalithic construction, where we already know at this point that this land was connected to the continent of Mu, where they were given the knowledge to build palaces of marble. They learned to quarry gigantic blocks of stone and learned how to transport them long distances, and also learned how to carve stone, where we are told that they built huge stone buildings. And then they show us these depictions of it in the mainstream history, like it was actually constructed in the water, like this. When we know that it was built on land, built on the continent of Mu, it wasn't originally in the water like this. In legend, we are told that the builders lifted the huge stones with the aid of a flying dragon. So we definitely have something very interesting going on here in the Pacific Ocean, where Colonel Churchward claimed that the civilization of Mu was technologically more advanced than we are today. And is this not exactly what we're saying today? A civilization that was here before us, that we are not being told about in our mainstream history classes, that was much more advanced, with so much more technology than we have today, where we are being given all of this technology back slowly after 1776, where Columbus didn't discover anything and was a fictional character in my opinion, when the previous civilization before us didn't know of less land than we do today. Instead, they knew about more land than we do today. It's a complete opposite, where Churchward goes on to say that this advanced civilization, this group in Mu, was known as the Nakals. The dates and the years are all over the place, and it's the one thing that's impossible to translate. This is in my opinion, but this is because the year 2024 is not really the true year. I think the calendar that we use today is fabricated to completely confuse us, and the further you get away from the creation date, the further you get away from the creator. I'm not entirely sure which year we are really in, and this is why it's impossible for James Churchward to know how long ago the continent of Mu was really here. I don't believe it was thousands of years ago, like I've said before. He also goes on to say the ancient civilizations of India, which would explain why these tablets would be in an Indian temple. Babylon, Persia, Egypt, and the Mayans were built by the people of Mu. And if there was one place in the world that would be hidden from our maps today, one specific location that holds all of this technology, flying crafts, marble structures, everything, who's to say that the group of people that found this location, or the remains that were at this location and are in control today, who's to say that this group wouldn't hide this location that is the stem of all information from all of us? Is it just a coincidence that the Pacific Ocean is basically empty on our map that we are shown? And don't forget that being in control of the map is a key part of the game. What if we are playing the game with a false map? Is it possible that a part of this incredible land of Mu is still here? Is it possible that the Garden of Eden is hidden to us? Is this why we have no idea where we are, or what we're doing here, or why we're finding massive structures that make no sense in our timeline? Hiding massive continents, hiding technology, giving us a false history, giving us a false map. Is this why we are distracted with Egypt, where they tell us to look to Egypt and the pyramids, while the real location is over in the Pacific Ocean, where Churchward claimed that the ancient Egyptian sun god Ra originated with the Mu, where Ra was the word which the Nakals used for sun, as well as for their god and rulers. Now, again, this is all information that we can hold on to for the future while we go further into this research. Finding a continent that's conveniently no longer on our map, where they were able to construct massive structures, had incredible technology, and would explain the pyramids in Egypt, is something that I cannot keep to myself. Church